fromtraveling.org.
Good evening, Malden. Welcome to TMZ, the Malden Zone. I'm your host, Joe Piantedosi Jr. Nice to be here. It is Ash Wednesday, February 13th, 2013. And it's a very holy, solemn day for Christians and Catholics. I guess predominantly Catholics, but surely Christians all over the world. And it's a little early this year. Easter is early, and I still can't tell you why that's the case. I mean, it's got to do with the biblical calendar. I have no idea. It's been explained to me, but I still can't tell you the reason why. Very interesting, and it comes at kind of a weird time. The world just got news that first time in 700 years, the Pope is stepping down, and it's very unprecedented. Pope Benedict, who is 85 years old, which by today's standards isn't really that old, and of course has a very active life and does a lot of travel, will be stepping down, and I guess he's stepping down the end of this month, February 28th. I guess he has been in ill health to some extent, nothing like his predecessor, Pope John Paul II, who was very sick for a while. But Pope Benedict is walking now with the assistance of a cane. He's been traveling on a vehicle more than walking. Seems tired. I don't know. I think it's kind of strange. No one's really said anything, but you know, it's such a busy time in the Catholic Church, being Lent and leading into Easter. And of course, after Easter, it quiets down. You go into the regular time in the Catholic Church. I am surprised that he didn't wait the extra 6 weeks and then decide to step down. So anyway, very interesting. The cardinals are going to form together and elect a new pope. I guess not until mid-March, which is going to be real close to Easter. So during this Lenten season, there will be no pope. Additionally, the pope is going to be retiring, I guess, and he's going to be in a separate dwelling in the Vatican. There's no active role for a former pope. It's never happened before. I guess 700 years ago it did. So he won't have any active duties. I believe he'll be cloistered and just kept away because he doesn't, obviously, they don't want him involved in any decision-making. It's not like an ex-president or an ex-CEO of a company, or even a royal, for that matter. So it's going to be interesting to see what role, if any, he plays. I personally think, and this is just my own speculation, that maybe he's very sick. For him to step down as abruptly as he is stepping down, with no, I mean, my thought is, do it after Easter. I mean, this is the busy time, and do it after Easter. And so the Catholics are led by somebody during this, again, busy time. So that's one interesting thing, and more news to come, certainly, on that. The other big story in the news was this record-breaking blizzard. Over 3 feet of snow in certain parts of Massachusetts. It was one for the history books for certain. Even further for the history books, the Governor DeValpatrick, did something very unprecedented. He closed the roads, and a lot of controversy on that. Is government getting too powerful? The fact that they can do that.
Thank you.
We all know why. He did, and in hindsight, he did it for the right reasons. I happened to be traveling during this time. I was stranded in Memphis, Tennessee, of all places. I was there in business, and my flight was canceled. I was supposed to leave Friday morning. Certainly could have got in well before the storm even started, but evidently the airlines didn't want this plane sitting in Boston on a runway with snow on the wings, and they really needed it to be out, be accessible, so have it down south, and they could, use it and make money with it. So I had to rent a car and drive. It was a nightmare ride, and I ended up spending the night in New York on Friday night because the roads were closed, and I couldn't get out of New York till Saturday night, and then Connecticut roads were horrendous. But anyway, we're going to talk more about the storm, but I'm going to bring on my I guess I call my co-host today, he's my guest, but Francis Mattuchio, Frank Matt, who is the producer of this show and an occasional host as well. Frank, nice of you to sit in. We had some...
I love that you got your ashes.
I got my ashes today.
I was thinking about this all day long. I was wondering if you were going to have a priest here today to give everybody ashes.
Well, like I did with the chamber.
You remember the Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, I got faulted for that.
Yeah.
I've talked about this on the show, but yeah. you were there taping, and many years ago we had a breakfast at Anthony's, and it happened to fall on Ash Wednesday. And there was a buzz. A lot of the people weren't going to come to the breakfast.
That's worse than putting it on a Jewish holiday.
Exactly. But people said they couldn't come because they had to go to church for their ashes. So it was a last-minute decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to get. We had a priest doing a benediction, and he was we called him the chamber. What was what was his title? Father Walsh.
Father Walsh.
But what do we call him? The chamber chaplain. We called him. It was a joke.
He was the
very funny guy.
Comedian.
And I called him up a few days before. I said, hey, Father, he's out of region still. I actually sent him notes and cards and letters. But we sent them back and forth to each other. And I said, could you bring some ashes and distribute ashes? And he said, sure. And of course, he brought the little vial out, which I think is probably not even allowed to be done, but here I am just asking. He does it.
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure it can be done. But just like if you had to go to somebody that was sick.
Right, yeah, but this was at a matter of fact. I remember there were certain people that complained about separation of church and state and what were you doing.
Why were we state?
I know exactly.
You weren't state.
I know. Well, I know.
And now let me go back to the Pope. You were talking about the Pope.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one thing with that first. My son, who's a bright 8th grader, said to me, it was kind of funny because he said, the separation of church and state, this was an over-inauguration, speaking of that. He said to me, there's the separation of church and state. He said, however, he said, when a president is inaugurated, he swears to God. On a Bible. And every time they speak, it's, so help me God, or God bless America, right?
Our money says in
God we trust, but yet, and they ban school prayer, they ban saying Christmas in schools.
Valentine's Day has been banned now because they consider that to be
a Saint's Day, really?
Yes.
Didn't hear that one.
Valentine.
I didn't hear that, but
that was at Melrose.
No kidding.
Yeah, my grandson's school.
So they can't do cards and all that?
They can't do cards and no shows of affection,
no
gifts.
That's amazing.
See, but getting back to the Pope.
Okay, the Pope. Let's talk about the Pope.
The day that he
resigned, retired.
Lightning.
I saw that.
Did you see that?
That was kind of weird.
It flashed the whole sky and everything.
Is that
telling us something?
Yeah. What is it?
Maybe it's still 2012. Oh no, it's 2013. Maybe they made a mistake by 1 year.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's strange. I've heard pros and cons. Why is he leaving us?
It's strange that he did it at this time.
That's what I said. Easter is a busy time.
That's when they killed Jesus Christ. And here he is now.
Well, the thing is, in the Catholic Church, the two busiest times of year is Advent, which is the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, and the 6 weeks of Lent, leading up to Easter.
And supposedly, with the church, what do they call that? The congregation of
the conclave.
The conclave. Yeah. That's it. That should end just before Easter.
Yeah, well, March.
And a new pope will be sworn in, but just around Easter time.
Which, to me, don't we need a spiritual leader throughout this Lenten season? I mean, there's so many masses. There's even Holy Thursday, Good Friday, but even today. Well, he's there today, obviously. But doesn't look that sick. I mean, Pope John Paul II, God rest his soul, God bless the poor guy. He was trembling. He couldn't even. He had to be held up to speak. I mean, and he went right to the end. I mean, Pope Benedict seems healthy. I mean, he slowed down a bit. He is 85. He has a very
Well, you
grueling
don't know that.
schedule.
Remember, they treat him like a jewel.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's
absolutely.
well protected.
Absolutely.
You know, he's. I mean, look how secret that was of him resigning.
Yeah, no one knew.
There were people talking with him the day before.
Well, the interesting thing was Matt Lauer from the Today Show got the breaking news before the show went on at 7. He called the Cardinal Timothy Dolan out of New York City, right? And he said, "Your Eminence," he said, I got right through to him, and he said, "You know, we have a rumor that the Pope is stepping down." He said, "No, I had nothing." And this was maybe 6:15, 6:30, and within 15, 20 minutes, he learned it was the truth.
Yeah.
So he came to the studio and he did a live interview. This
Our
Cardinal
didn't even know till just.
Sean O'Malley, yeah.
And what's his name? The ambassador to the Vatican.
Ray Flynn,
Flynn.
well, retired, former
Yeah.
ambassador.
Well, you still call him ambassador.
Right.
You still call him
Now,
mayor.
that's the interesting thing. You still call these people these titles, so what do you call a pope that's no longer
He
there?
goes back to being a cardinal. They said. I've been watching. I've been following that.
He
No, he goes back to being a cardinal.
But see, well, first off, cardinals, which is very strange. This is strange. When a cardinal turns 80, he can no longer vote for pope. I don't know why that age is. You would think they have the wisdom to vote.
Well, he's going to go. I think he's going to go live with his brother.
Heard that, but I also heard there's a building on the property that he was going to just live in.
Yeah.
But see, they're going to have to.
No, because they keep it.
They're going to have to cloister him. I mean, he's not going to. It's not like you see Obama speaking and there's Clinton in the background and George W. Bush. You can't have a former pope in the background.
Let's get into the real good stuff now.
The snow? What we're doing? No, what?
Let's talk about the State of the Union.
Well, let's talk about snow. Then we'll come to the state.
Okay, we'll talk about
So
snow.
I mentioned the snowstorm because this kind of gets into the state. So I was traveling, and I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I flew to Memphis Tuesday, and I'm a news junkie. There was no mention of snow, no mention of storm when I left Tuesday. Wednesday, I'm in Memphis, and I hear a little buzz, maybe a storm in the Northeast brewing. Well, by Wednesday night, it was pretty evident. I'm there for this conference. And so I'm scrambling, and I had a Delta flight. I hate to mention the airline. It was Delta flight, only nonstop in and out of Memphis, and it happens once a day, not even every day. My flight was out Friday, and I was monitoring that flight and making sure it was gonna go off. And the storm wasn't supposed to hit till Friday afternoon. For all intents and purposes, it should have went. 6 o'clock at night, Thursday night, I get an email confirming my flight, confirming my seat. An hour and a half later, getting ready to go to dinner, and I get an email that says it's been canceled. At that point, I scrambled. Found out the earliest I could get to Memphis would be Monday, possibly even Tuesday. Now, this is Thursday. Thinking, oh, geez, I have a wife and a son at home, but even just, I don't want to be away that long. My first thought was to go to the front desk at the hotel. Now, Memphis is in New Orleans, but it's the weekend before Mardi Gras, which, of course, was last night. And I didn't realize Beale Street, it's a mini Mardi Gras in Memphis, Tennessee. So the hotel that I was staying at said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we're booked for this weekend. We can give you some suggestions of hotels that are nearby."
They throw you out?
Well, I then found out there's federal law that they can't do that, but they told me when I went to try to extend it a night or two. So I was with a guy that works with me in sales, and he's got 2 young daughters at home, and we looked at each other, what are we going to do? And he said, "Hey, I drive." And I said, "You know what? Let's do it."
From Tennessee?
We rented a car from Avis, and we drove. Now, meanwhile, we wanted an SUV. I figured, we're going to hit some snow. However, the SUVs, which I should have known this, down south on all-wheel drive. So that was even, it was a Ford SUV.
Yeah.
But we got in the road a little after 9, and we drove, and we drove, and we drove, and we got a GPS. We rented that from Avis, which was nice, and we're driving. Most of it dark, 2-lane highway. Then we drove overnight. A little rain, but it wasn't bad. Then the sun came out about 7 o'clock in the morning. Tennessee is the longest state. I couldn't believe how big the state was. Tennessee and Virginia, seemed like we couldn't get out of those 2 states. But we finally did, and we made some good timing. And people are calling us. There's no snow, smooth driving. We hit New Jersey. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Friday. But now we're hearing about this ban, And then all of a sudden, within an hour, the snow started, northern New Jersey. And everyone's calling me from the cell and saying, hey, you know what? They're closing the roads at 4 in Mass.
Yeah.
And my goal was to get as close as we could, and stay on the fringe in a boarded motel somewhere. Then they said Connecticut's closing too. So we pulled off. I stayed in New York City. I've got a friend that works at one of the hotels in New York City. He hooked us up. And I thought, okay, you know what? Well, we're tired. We've been on the road all day. Let's get a good night's sleep. We'll get up, get a good dinner, good night's sleep, get up early, hit the road Saturday morning. My wife calls me 6:45. Of course, I want to sleep, and I never sleep, but I'm dead because I've been driving. Phone rings. My wife she said, there's a man. She says, you're not going to be able to get, leave. And New York didn't get hit bad at all. Well, anyway, so my wife, I said, oh, my God. No, I'm an active, anal person. I have to keep moving and keep doing things. So my wife said to me, don't worry, we're fine here. She says, my God, you're in a nice hotel. You've got television. She said, it sounds like heaven to me. She said, enjoy the day. I said, okay, about a couple hours, I got the news on. I said, I can't stand it. I got to go outside. Meanwhile, every other trip I've traveled, I would overpack. And this trip, because I had done 4 trips in the last 4 weeks, I had just enough socks, underwear. I was down to the last thing of everything. Now I'm in New York, plus Memphis temperatures were 65, 70 degrees. I didn't plan for snow. I had a windbreaker for a jacket. I had loafers for shoes. But anyway, what was interesting was I got to watch the news and from New York. And I'll tell you what I learned. I didn't know much about Mario Cuomo, the now governor, the son of the original governor. And,
Yeah.
Geez, pretty sharp guy. I mean, he had a press conference and boom, 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 everything seemed like it was taken care of. He did a press conference, and of course they weren't hit nearly as bad as we were. And at the end of the press conference, any questions? No one even asked a question because he was that precise. They then went to the Connecticut governor, and he was all over the map. And that was a little. And then Deval comes out strong. Now let's talk about that because Deval did something, and then Connecticut followed suit. And said
New York didn't.
New York didn't. Well, the roads weren't as bad.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why now.
Tell me.
I bulldozed
Sure.
streets
Not this story.
during the 1978
Oh,
blizzard
was it a 78?
because it was the exact same time, the exact same kind of storm, and cars and trucks were all over the place. And that was one of the best things the governor did, because look how much faster we got
Oh,
going.
yeah.
I mean, it would have took them 2 days. It took us a week.
Yeah.
It took me 2 weeks to open up from Schweitzer Circle to the Bradford, the bridge there by the electric company.
Okay.
And that was with a big D8 bulldozer.
Wow.
Okay? Now, in the middle of the street was stuck. One of those natural gas tankers.
Wow.
Couldn't move. I had to undo that.
Wow.
And that took some great, and then we had to go up to the hospital.
Wow.
And then I had, before they put the Honda place on Broadway,
Yeah.
there was a big parking lot. I had to do all that, okay? And I had to bulldoze all that, and they filled it up with all towed cars
Wow.
because they were stuck everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we left New York. We didn't leave. The band in Connecticut left at about 5. We got word.
Yeah.
So I had already said, but we said we're leaving. We're going to leave now. So we packed our rooms up and we jumped in the car. But we had dinner first because I said let's not stop. Let's have dinner. We haven't eaten dinner. I didn't have lunch that day. So we hit the road, and New York was a breeze.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
How did you get through New York with all the cars stuck?
New York, there were no cars stuck. It was
What was that picture I seen in the?
Long Island. Long Island got hit pretty bad.
Okay, sorry.
Manhattan and downtown
See,
New
that
York.
looked just like what Route 128
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
like in
Oh yeah,
1978.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, in '84, in Connecticut, Route 84 had over 150 cars that were like that. And
Yeah.
so we left New York, and New York was we thought this is great. We'll make it home in 3.5 hours. And all of a sudden we hit Connecticut, and Connecticut was a disaster. They had the roads closed. They had one lane predominantly. There were cars stalled. There were people spinning out. There were people that shouldn't have been on the roads that were on the road. And what should have taken 3.5 hours
Yeah.
took 6.5 hours. I got up at 2 in the morning. However, now we leave Connecticut, and I'll tell you, the Mass bike, 95, 128 in Mass, clean as a whistle. I mean, it looked like somebody physically took a shovel and shoveled. There was no snow on the pavement at all.
Yes.
So I guess in that, but the issue is
And
this.
this was just the other day.
This was just the other day. But the issue is this. Does the government have the right to tell you you cannot leave your house? I mean, that gets a little bit like Nazi Germany. I mean, when you got...
You can leave your house, or you can't drive
You
on
can't
the
drive,
roads.
and you can't, yeah, but...
The state roads. And it's for this public safety.
Well, I guess.
You know, it did. See, there's a lot of fine lines. Here's what happened. I was watching this on the news. Okay? This lady, she got a $50 ticket because her sidewalk was not shoveled in Boston, Jamaica Plains.
Okay.
Okay? And her street hadn't even been plowed yet.
Wow. And she got the ticket for the...
And they were shoveling it by hand.
Wow.
You see?
Well, there's a fine line between a lot of things.
Line.
Yeah. So, and schools were closed. They could have been closed a lot more. My son was out 2 days, Friday and Monday. I guess the governor declared no school on the Friday. He was the one, he overrode the schools too and said he didn't want kids in school because he wanted the roads empty. Then Monday, that was unprecedented, but I guess a lot of the sidewalks hadn't been done. Boston was closed Tuesday. And I was even noticing this morning on the news, a lot of schools were still closed.
That's right. And because I have a snowblower, but my snowblower was overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
I had to take the shovel in. So my sidewalk is still not open to the spec. You know, it's supposed to be 4 feet wide so a wheelchair can get up and down it.
Yeah.
I got about another 20 feet that way and another 10 feet that way.
Wow.
And I'll do that tomorrow when the sun is out.
Jeez. Yeah. It was going to snow tonight.
You know, I'm 71 years old. I mean, it took every end.
Oh, yeah. It was heavy snow. It was wet snow.
Yeah. And then at least, you know, it's great exercise.
Yeah.
I'm glad I can do it at this age.
Oh, yeah. It's very good exercise.
You know, and I watch as Malden turns, and a lot of people are bitching about how the snow removal was. Well, come next week, the mayor's office is going to be on with all the people that are in that department.
Right here on the show.
On the show, and they will explain the priorities of what it takes to do this job.
Well, I want to tell you this. So I'm in Winchester. I live there.
Okay,
and,
how does Winchester?
Well, I
and
want
that's
to tell you
That's
something.
a very, what do you call it, exclusive type
Affluent, maybe you could say.
Affluent,
But I want to
okay.
tell you this. And we have the good fortune of having former Mayor Richard Howard as our town manager.
Yeah, that's true.
And I want to tell you something. I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting today in Winchester.
Really?
And Richard was there, and he got praises. I'll tell you, you know, when the storm came all weekend, when I finally got back home,
Yes.
it was
When did you
Sun-
get home?
I got home at 2 o'clock Sunday morning, and I was dead
That
tired.
wasn't bad.
Was-
Yeah, you had to be beat.
Okay, went to bed, but Sunday afternoon I ventured down, and our shop was open on Sunday, and literally a 5-foot
That was the other
wall.
question I was going to ask you. You see, you're on one of those real
Side
see,
streets.
It's like the North End where you are.
Totally. And the street was so bad on Sunday, okay? It's a one-lane, one-way street with parking on both sides and sidewalk.
Tough enough to park there when there's no snow.
Exactly. So what they did was one whole side, and it was our side where our shop was, had a 5-foot wall. It took all the parking spaces to the sidewalk and beyond the sidewalk, okay? And there was a narrow aisle down the middle for cars to go the one way, and there was parking spaces, but it wasn't even, you couldn't even put the full amount of cars there.
Yeah.
Sunday, we should have closed. Here I am thinking we were closed Saturday, we closed early Friday at 3 o'clock. Saturday, we were closed all day. People eat bread, supposedly, when, you know, you buy batteries, you buy milk, you buy bread. That's the most important thing, you know. So Sunday was really bad. Well, I want to tell you something. I think, oh, geez, it's going to be like this till May, for God's sakes, I thought. But Richard Howard had the streets, I guess it was Monday night, he had the snow removed. I went down there Tuesday morning.
Oh, the bank like outside here. I was very surprised
and
when
Malden
I
did it too.
Malden did an excellent
They
job.
trucked it all the way. The downtown here, you don't even see a drop of snow. It almost looks like a movie set now.
Yeah, see.
And and Mayor Howard got kudos in Winchester for doing that. He was the one that really was responsible. So it's, you know, and as now a shop owner, and unlike our plant, you get this little shop in Winchester, and it's amazing. You know, when people can't get to you, they're not going to get to you, you know. And, I mean, you had to walk sideways. A few shop people had shoveled. I had a couple of kids that worked for me that shoveled, but not even a good job. So, but anyway, you know what? In hindsight, we had a huge storm, and it wasn't that devastating. And thank God, we didn't lose power. No, a lot of people did lose power. We were fortunate. Did you lose power?
No, we didn't lose any power here. It was
which
great.
was good.
And see, people do not take into consideration, people talking about the big piles of snow and this and how you can't see it. I mean, when you get 3 feet of snow and you pile it up, it becomes 6 feet of snow.
Right, and then drifts too, and
Yeah.
they hit the wind.
And my son right now, he's doing the children's hospital, and they get these 2 big trailer trucks that are ice melters.
Wow.
And with a lot of cities now, they have smaller trucks.
Yeah.
Are renting them and getting rid of the snow.
Yeah.
Turns it right to water.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just dump the snow in
Yeah.
it like that, and it
Yeah.
has heat and fire and
Yeah.
oil, and it melts the snow right down the drain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because all it is water. I mean, it's not like it's it's rock.
If the temperatures, but see, right now, on my garage roof, I had about 2.5 feet of snow, and it was up in my window about like that, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Because the blacktop in the streets, and like the snow piles are on the sidewalk are half of what they used to be.
But now they're saying we're getting snow tonight, possibly a couple inches.
Nothing spectacular. The sun will be shining again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, now you have to be careful this time of year because the sun comes out during the day, warms up, freezes at night, gets really cold at night. Now you have black ice the next morning, and you can take a spill, you can get an accident very easily. And,
well, we're New Englanders.
Yeah, you got to be tough.
We know that.
And on the good side is, we're almost at the halfway point. Tomorrow we will be in February.
Well,
and in what, 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, we've got daylight savings time that comes back.
Well, see, February is when the sun finally gets to the point where the rays are strong enough that the snow disappears real quick, not like it was January or December.
Yeah.
You see?
So, but anyway, all right, so the blizzard came and went, and we survived it. Let's hope. We had no snow, and we were under
We went like that in one
and
day.
now we're
the weathermen all talking about that. They had this little graphs, and then they showed this one over here.
One of the sad things is, now it's funny, my son is 8th grade, as I told you, and now they've had 4 snow days. Well, 2 were hurricane days, and I thought when I went to school that you had days built in, whether you used them or not, you still went
and did.
Okay, now
I know, I can't believe it when they say June 24th or something.
My son is going to as it stands now, the 24th of June.
I always remember getting out the first week of June.
No, we went later, but it was always, you had this, whether you used the snow days or not. And I do remember it was the blizzard of '78. I was a junior in high school, and it was just before February vacation, and there was talk, what are we going to do? Because we missed about a week of school. And school committee in Winchester, I remember, met and discussed, should we eliminate school vacation week? Well, think about all the people that already have trips planned. By then, you get tickets to Florida, you paid for them, and so they said, can't do that. They even thought April would be, because some people don't go away February, we go in April, and you'd made the deposit, what do you do? So my junior year, we extended the school year, the school days by a half hour every day.
Yeah.
So every class, we had 7 periods, was 5 extra minutes.
Yeah.
And we did that for a couple of months, and we made up the time. Because I guess there's a state law, federal law, whatever it is, that says you cannot go to school beyond a certain date.
There you are. So we're back to federal laws again, okay? Are we dumbing our kids down and weakening our kids? When I was a kid, look at me. I'm 71 years old.
Yep.
I used to walk from the Winchester line all the way to Medford Square to go to the high school.
You would live in the Winchester line?
Yeah, right there where the cemetery is.
Oh, no kidding. Oak Grove?
Oak Grove, yeah.
Yep.
I lived up on top of the hill there.
Wow.
Okay? And I used to walk there twice a day.
Wow.
Okay? Rain, snow.
Yeah.
And so I know people like to make life easier and better for the next generation.
Right.
But is it really?
Well, you hear about, the age-old story my father used to tell me. I kick myself because I tell my son, when I was your age, we did this, but I was your age. And you say it, but I mean, things change. My son, we drive him to school every day. I mean, he's and I remember I had to walk, and there was a bus, but I walked to the bus. My mother and father, I didn't even think of, they never offered to drive. I mean, I think if I had a project to carry into school, they'd drive me. If I never was late, but I mean, I could probably count the times in all my school years that my mother drove me to school. My father was at work, but my mother would occasionally drive me, but very seldom. And yet every morning, my wife and I,
Here's the best part. The year that I graduated, that summer the high school burned down, and they built a brand new one right across the street from my house.
That's the new high school that's there now?
Yeah, the new high school that was over by the Jewish
Yeah,
synagogue.
right now, yeah.
I don't even know if that's the high school anymore.
That is still, I believe. I drive by.
What's that building then on the Mystic River with the big turbine in front of it?
I don't think that's the school, high
I
school.
thought that was the new high school,
I don't think it is. What year did you graduate high school?
1960.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I remember John F. Kennedy coming when I was in
Wow.
my second year of high school. He came just before when he was running for president because he knew we were going to be at the voting age by the time he ran for president.
Yeah, smart.
Pretty smart fella.
Yeah, very smart.
You know what I'm saying?
So speaking of politics, let's go into the inauguration.
Okay.
I didn't see it last night.
You didn't see it.
No,
You
I
missed everything.
Well,
See,
I saw
and
some-
I did not look at the president once. I was watching the vice president and Banner.
Banner, yep.
And you could see the difference between the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? One of the news guys says, boy, it looks like he's sucking on a lemon.
Yeah.
Okay? And see, like the stuff that he says, that's the fine line the government has to walk.
Yeah.
He's talking about raising the minimum wage
The $9, I heard that this
to
morning.
$9. See, but what about the people that employ these people?
Exactly.
You see, that's the fine line that people
Yeah.
you got to take that stuff into consideration.
Right. And I'm on the board of the Mass Restaurant Association, and they want to raise we have lobbyists that fight that because
Yeah, and
they
that-
get tips.
And what you know is like that's the business that most people are on that fine line.
Yeah.
Okay, and between raising taxes,
Yeah.
even your bread industry must be
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's funny because that's what bothers me. The government feels that the businesses have the deep pockets. They can afford to pay. They pay. But when they're taxed so high, there's so many rules and regs and compliance and fines and it's how much can you squeeze a business? And if the business isn't strong, this all comes back. How are they going to hire people, pay people, right? Which stimulates the economy. How are they going to make products or sell products that again stimulates the economy? It's a catch-22. I mean, you really have to make businesses strong.
Yes.
And there's two types of businesses. I mean, gone are the days I feel that they're screwed. I mean, there are some companies out there that probably still, are pretty tough to work for. Conditions may be bad. They
Yeah.
may squeeze their employees. They may be heartless with their employees. But for the most part, I think most companies out there today treat their people well and pay
Yeah.
people. And if you don't, I mean, there's people aren't forced to work there. Years ago, you're lucky to have a job, you stayed there.
Yes.
No matter how bad conditions were, no matter how much you got paid, no matter how bad you were treated, you had a job, you stayed there.
Yeah.
Now there are options.
Yeah, see?
And people can leave these. And that's why there's unions and there's companies that don't have unions, but you're free to leave a company. That's the thing.
See, when I was working, I got a job, and you worked there for 10, 15 years.
Oh, longer.
30.
Oh,
see,
longer,
when
sure.
I worked with my family, we owned the scrap iron yard in
Yeah.
Chelsea. I mean, I worked there for 30 years.
Yeah.
And then I worked for the other place for another 20.
Yeah.
And then I went into the construction. But you never worked for the same people because
Right.
Well, I did work for the same people, but you were always taking the
Yeah.
crane somewhere else working
Yeah.
with different
Yeah.
people. So, but I would hate to have to, you people, they say the jobs are about 5-6 years now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the
Because I don't know if
the
it's
turnover rate.
because the technology changes.
Well, I think people are more savvy and they're out shopping, and even I don't know. I mean, they probably get more educated and they can look for better conditions. Or people can. I don't know. There's a bunch of things. Well, there's been studies and surveys that people they'd rather have free time than more money.
Yeah.
And I think people, if a job becomes too involved for most people and longer than they should be there hour-wise, and hey, they'll leave and they'll take less money to have more free time. And
Yeah.
that's been proven. Where years ago, I mean, we had employees that would hang around the punch clock. They'd punch out and hope and pray. And in those days, there weren't even laws. My father and uncles were at the bakery, and Rocco would be there working his tail off, and he worked a long shift.
I remember that.
And he wanted to work an extra shift, and he wouldn't purposely leave. He'd punch out and be lingering. And all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, Mario didn't show up. Hey, Rocco, punch in,
Yeah,
work another
see?
shift. And he was ecstatic. He was so happy. I mean, today, if you ask somebody to, after working an 8, 9, 10-hour shift, to do another one right back to back.
Yeah, see, I never had that, brother. I always worked I always worked 60 to 90 hours a week.
Oh, well,
I didn't have that problem.
gone are those days, though.
Yeah.
Gone are those days. People
Yeah.
don't do that anymore, and
Yeah,
they
I
want
know
free
it.
time. But anyway, so the state of the city. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just the state of the union.
Union. Then there was Rubicon. What's his name? Who's
Which
the guy from Florida doing it? Was
Rubio,
Rubio.
Marco Rubio, who did
That was
the
close.
Republican.
That was close. Yes,
I know he did. I know he got
talked
dry
about-
mouth. He grabbed a
he
drink of
talked
water. That
about
was the big.
how Obama wants to just spend, make more money, and give it away to people and raise taxes.
Well, it is interesting. Okay, I'm not being partisan here, but I hear about here in the state, here in the country, about raising taxes. I don't hear about cutting.
Never.
And you know, and when they talk cutting, okay, they scare people by saying, you know what, you don't want to pay more taxes, we're going to eliminate police. Okay, you're not going to
that's
be
the
as safe
threat
on
they
the street.
give you all
We're going to
the time.
eliminate fire. You're going to have you know, and then people are going to teachers are going to get laid off. There's going to be more kids in the classroom. They're not going to learn as well. We're not going to have sports, athletic events at the school. We're going to have to dim the lights. It's going to be darker and scarier. We have to, and they say all this, but there's agencies and there's so much government waste, and that's never addressed.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, if somebody, and you know what, with Romney and the poor guy, you know what, I think he was a decent man. I think he probably would have done a good job. You need somebody to look like you run your house. And there are some households that are run well, some that aren't.
not.
But you have to manage what you have. You can't spend what you don't have. And my father was
Seemed like a business.
my father was a firm believer. My father didn't get a credit card. I think he was 60 years old when he got it. He refused to get a credit card.
Yeah.
Okay, and he and my mother started doing
A
some
lot of
traveling,
timers are
and
like that.
you needed it. And my father he said it was the ruination of the country, and he said if you don't have the cash, you don't buy it. And that was how my father lived his life.
Yeah.
And today people charge, and they even send you free cards in the mail with some credit lines, and people will extend themselves, but you can't. And we do it with the country, and
They
you-
encourage you to overextend
they do,
yourself.
they do. And then when it stops, that's what really hurts the economy. All of a sudden, boom, it stops. And
When I used credit, I used to get 2 of them in the mail a week, okay? And then they would give you this prime rate, and then they would do this, and then they would give you a bigger limit.
yeah, oh yeah.
And they just sucked you right in.
Totally.
Like giving candy to a baby.
Oh yeah.
You know, there was no prejudice.
And if you have an addictive personality, which
Yeah.
a lot of us do, and it's like gambling or drinking or whatever, and it's very easy to get involved, and then you're deep in debt. So, but I mean, I really would love to see somebody say, okay, and it's nice, you pay taxes, you want to know where the money goes to. And I remember I was a kid. And I said,
You're a
"Look,
businessman. How do you get rid of $16 trillion?
I have no. You got to sharpen your
I
pencil.
mean, we're talking. You and I. $10,000 is a lot of money.
Oh
to
my
us.
God! Yeah.
$16 trillion.
But there are when I hear, sometimes you're sitting there watching the news or you read something, it's just like the welfare. I mean, how much money? It was 1.5 million that
Yeah,
was.
that was given to people that don't deserve it.
They're not even around. Some of them, I mean, alive. And there's no follow-up addresses. And there's so much of that. And I remember as a kid going through D.C. for the first time. And I was in a tour bus. And I remember being told, okay, this is the department of this huge building that went for blocks.
Yeah.
And they were full of people, okay? Full of other stuff too. And I could not believe the amount of building. I mean, you think of the government, you think, okay, an office. You think of one building, like Town Hall, City Hall. In D.C., there's building after building after department after department after department. And where does it stop? And these people are paid well.
Yeah.
And then how many jobs are no-show jobs? And how many, they talk about patronage, okay? And I'm sorry, there's too much patronage.
I got to watch Channel 4 tonight. There's a woman makes $90,000 a year, and she doesn't even show up.
That happens everywhere. And usually, unfortunately, and you get these people that get into office, and they're no ties. They're not beholden to anybody. That's their famous line. They don't have ties to anybody. But you know what? Who helped them get into office? Who campaigned? Who donated to their campaign? Who held fundraisers and parties? And who carried signs, knocked on doors? So now there are job openings available. Those are the people that are tapped into. So,
Yeah.
people unqualified. They're not qualified, and they get hired.
Yes.
And some positions don't need to be filled, and some positions, one person could and should do the job of 3 positions, and it goes on and on and on, and that's what it is, and when they scare people, even though security's going to stop and medical coverage.
There you go. See, Medicare.
Medicare.
They do all these things. Here I am on Social Security now. And that's all they do is threaten. Oh, we're going to have to cut this, we're going to have to cut that.
But that's not, there's things to be cut. It's just like your household.
Yes.
Okay? You're not going to starve yourself. If money's tight coming in, okay, maybe you'll get rid of cable TV, or maybe you won't have the movie stations. You'll have basic cable, okay?
Right.
Maybe you've got a cell phone, you got a house phone, you get rid of the house
phone.
phone. You do stuff like that.
Yeah, or you get rid of the cell phones. The cell phones are a lot more expensive.
Right, you clip coupons, right? Maybe you get rid of a car. You and your wife have 2 cars. You know what?
Yeah,
you get rid
I
of.
don't have lobsters and steak dinners anymore.
You cut back.
I have hamburgers and.
And you know what? You're not really limiting yourself. It's not like you're starving. I mean, but you tighten your belt and you make some concessions. That's all it is. And you don't cut the meat. You don't not go to the doctor because, you got to pay. You need medication. But get the medication. You almost make a list. What does it take? This is essential.
Yeah, but see,
we need heat.
They have the, what do you call them? The paisans. And how are you going to get rid of them?
It's patronage. It's nepotism. But it's to the point where even like your house, and it's amazing what I find. My thermostat. If you lower your thermostat a little bit, it's amazing how much money you'll save in 1 month utilities. Now, how many times you go into a place and it's hot as Haiti, and windows are open, okay? So now you're literally heating the outside,
right.
Okay? Air conditioning, same thing. I mean, there are certain things. Running water. I mean, think about, you could, if you needed to tighten your belt, I'm sure everybody could look at their household expenses, and not that they would be deprived. They could cut back on some things and still have a great life, be healthy, okay? Well, the government needs to do it. The government needs to make some cuts that aren't going to hurt people.
I'm going back to when I was a kid and stuff that we had the little stove in the kitchen, the little jug, and that's all the heat we had. Wow. See, right now I keep my house at 65 degrees.
Wow.
I haven't paid a gas bill in 3 years.
Wow.
Same with the water bill. Use it only when you need it.
Yeah. And you know what? You put a sweater on. You put a blanket on at night.
Put a coat on. And I sit there and I watch how I'm working down in my garage.
Yeah.
Well, they're making a studio. So they will be broadcasting right out of 14 Bell Rock Street.
No kidding. Great. I'll come over and do that then. But anyway, so that's the cuts that need to be done, and it's not limiting our safety and our the essentials in life. You can't get rid of, obviously. And we need police, we need firemen. Maybe you look at every department and you cut back on overtime, or you cut back on the one term I hate you mentioned earlier tonight. Non-essential employees.
Yes.
If you're termed a non-essential employee, why go to work at all?
Yeah.
I mean, when they say on television, I hate that. They said it the other day.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend of mine, and he's a friend of yours too.
That's a non-essential.
And I'll always call him up on the snow day, and I'll say, "Hey, how's it feel to be non-essential?"
Yeah, I know. So, but anyway, so that's that. Now, let me see what else. So the Pats, the Super Bowl. Obviously the Pats.
You got the Red Sox now.
The Red Sox.
John Lester is pulling himself right out.
Yeah, and Clayball calls. We got two good pitchers, but and this John Farrell, I'm hoping I always liked him when he was the pitching coach. I always thought he was good. Of course, he didn't do well down in Toronto, but I think he's a good guy. I think he's respected in the clubhouse. And
the new coach looks a lot sharper than the old one we had.
Farrell, that's John
Is
Farrell.
That Farrell?
John Farrell.
I didn't hear you. I thought you said pitching coach.
No, he was the pitching coach.
Oh, he was a pitching
John
coach.
Farrell, yeah.
I see, okay.
He was a good guy. I always liked him. And then he actually went to Toronto and had a couple of bad seasons.
Yeah.
And I guess they wanted him last year before they brought Valentine in.
Yeah.
And Valentine was a mistake.
couldn't stand
Oh
him.
no, he was out there. And then what else we got? Of course, the Celts. They had lost what? They won 7 straight, I think, without Ronda, who's out on disability.
Yeah, and now they lost another guy.
Yeah.
So
And the Bruins are doing very well. I mean,
the
the
Bruins,
season's
and it's a good thing it's a short season.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's and it's good for the economy. I mean, when the teams are
Yeah.
playing and they're doing well, and
Yes.
now the restaurants and bars and the vendors are all do well, and there's activity, and that's what you got to do. The economy has to.
How do you see? That's another line. See, the government wants to take and do the infrastructure has to be done, okay? But that is not an industry that is a viable industry.
Which is that?
Well, once you build a road,
Yeah.
what do you do with the people?
Right.
Hey, what happened with the big dig tunnel? Everybody had trucks, bulldozers, cranes, and
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
Once the big dig was done,
Well, then hopefully more on another project. I mean, and
yeah.
there are other
But where does
projects
that money come from?
from the economy, from people
Yeah,
spending and people
yeah.
going out, and
From the government.
not all government. It's all government. It's people that are spending money that are fueling the economy. I mean, it's a catch-22.
I know, it's a
You
very
can't
fine
rely.
line.
You can't rely on the
I love
government
getting into
only.
these- I
and
love
you
getting into these
can't rely on
conversations.
the average citizen. It's and you know what? It's funny because one thing I did hear from the State of the Union, which I told you I didn't see, unfortunately, but you know, the president has basically said numerous times since he's been reelected that the country, you know, has a mandate. They put him back in office.
Yeah, see, like,
So they were happy, but however, they also put the Republicans back
now
in
I'm really going to
Congress.
get into it. We got 13 minutes left.
They got caught. It's equal. I mean, if they were happy with the Democrats, everybody in the country, there'd be a Democratic executive branch. All 3 branches of government would be Democratic. The fact that now there is a check and balance system between the Senate and the House, Republican and Democrat, it's a checks and balance system, and that's what when the voters did. I mean, they didn't give a carte blanche
Here comes the
to
gun
one party.
control now.
Okay.
Because that was the last thing. And he brought all these
Yep.
people in. that
Gabby
were-
Gifford,
Hayes, the
Gabby
girl
Gifford.
that lived down the street from his house.
Yep.
The one that was shot in the park. The young
Yep.
girl that was in his parade.
Yep. The girl in
Okay?
Chicago.
But that's still, it's not the guns.
It's people.
how the people get them.
Exactly. And it's also the clips from what I gather. I mean, a gun is a gun, but they don't need the certain levels of guns you don't need. You don't need the
clips- clips will
semi-automatic.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard when they were shooting at that guy up in California.
Yeah. The
Did you
former
hear
cop.
the gunfire?
Yeah.
It was like being in Afghanistan.
Right.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then it reminded me of Koresh when they fired the smoke grenade and then
Yeah.
set the house on fire.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, law enforcement officials, and do they need guns that powerful?
Yes, because the people coming at them now have guns that powerful.
That should be eliminated. I mean,
That's
the
the thing,
average
see.
citizen, if you're a collector, if you're a hunter, okay, that's fine and good. But you don't need these semi-automatic
Automatics.
rifles with clips that hold ammo.
But they were talking about, see, they're not automatic. You still have to squeeze the trigger.
Well, semi-automatic.
Yeah, so it's still not like that prevalent.
Right.
There are people that do need a gun like that.
Yeah. Who?
People that want to have them. But if they're sane, okay, there's nothing wrong with them having one.
Well, I mean, it
Just
is.
think about it.
It's in the Constitution, the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
Of course, that all was started. The irony was, do you know why people were given the?
Muskets.
But why were they given the right to bear arms? This is the irony. Why were people given back when they did
So that the government didn't overpower it.
Exactly. And how funny is it now that the government
Is trying to stop it.
Yes,
See, I watch this all the time on Facebook between
Yep.
the NRA, what is the other place? They're not the Republicans. What's the other?
the Tea Party. They're
And all these
Republicans,
people,
sure.
and they come up with this stuff, and they showed what Washington said, what Lincoln said, what this guy said, and how to keep us safe. Benjamin Franklin, he was a
Yep.
big guy about that,
Yeah.
about the government not being able to overpower the citizens.
Right. So, but I just think sometimes you look at Congress, and they fight to fight. They just, it's extreme. You're Republican and you're pro-life and you're pro-guns.
It's like you and I right now.
I mean, you have to step back and realize that times change, and think what's good for the overall country, and not just because I'm a Republican and I feel this way, I'm a Democrat, I feel that way, and I'm a diehard, and my father was a Democrat, my grandfather was, I'm going to vote Democratic, and I'm going to go through every Democratic law and rule I'm going to agree with, and I'm going to oppose. That's what they're doing now. It's like children in a playground.
With negative and positive poles.
Exactly. And it's all about getting reelected and the power in office. It's just, I think
it has changed greatly.
It has. It has. And even, like you look at the Democrats, both parties have changed. But when I hear people that are diehard one party, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not the party of JFK. I mean, JFK...
I'm telling you, I admired that.
I did too.
He was right there in the center.
And he had
for the country.
Think of his classic quote: "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." That's not the quote of the Democratic Party today.
That's what's failing us today.
Exactly, because people are saying, "Okay, what do I get? I want to get welfare. I want to collect. Food stamps, the EBT card, all this stuff."
So they look at the graphs I don't know if you do Facebook, my friend. Just look at the graphs of how much just the tax increases from the time they started back in 1931 to today goes like this.
Yeah. So that's all a shame. But anyway, so on lighter notes, let's see what else we can talk about in these remaining minutes.
I'm going to be leaving in a minute.
All right, well, you can leave because you got to shut the show. But let me try to think what else is.
Go ahead. I'll stay here.
Well, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Your sweetheart is how many years you've been married now with this?
47.
Wow, 47 years, and she's from Ireland, of course.
She's right from Ireland.
Now, in case she's watching tonight, you don't want to disclose if you're going to do anything special for Valentine's Day. You guys
take her out for dinner.
Nice.
And we're going to walk.
Beautiful.
Because my car's not running. See, I do watch. I take the day and I adjust to it as it comes to me. I don't try to go out there and plan.
So where are you going for dinner? Did you have a reservation? You're just
going down the what do you call it?
Well,
Kelly's.
Kelly's.
My wife likes their roast beef.
Oh, Kelly's roast beef?
Yeah.
Here in Medford.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can walk down there.
Beautiful.
Nice walk. It's going to be nice and sunny. After I finish snow blowing the snow.
Are you going to any flowers, candy? Do you buy her?
We're not flowers.
Cards?
Well, I print my own cards.
Oh, that's very
I'm
sweet.
one of those.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah.
Fragment.
Yeah. Now, what about your grandchildren? So it's Valentine's Day for them too. It's not really for lovers. It's a day for kids. And I remember, it's funny now. My son's 14, and I took him to the mall to buy. He wanted to buy his mother and his grandmother, a few people, Valentine cards and gifts. And it was sad because I remember for years taking him by the hand as he picked his boxed Valentine cards to give to his friends in school. Spider-Man, and those days are gone. And I have to wait for grandchildren for that to happen again.
See, there's nothing better than a personalized card that I print on my print shop.
Well, that's nice.
Which is really good. Now, if anybody has any comments, you can email me at fracmat@hotmail.com. Love to hear from you.
And we don't get any calls anymore. The phone's not working here as they should.
Work. No, they work.
Really? We got a hype.
Well, I'll talk to you about that afterwards.
All right. So anyway, well, thank you, Frank Mattuchio. He's our executive producer. We also have Ed in the control room.
Yeah.
Hannah,
Haley.
Haley came down from upstairs, so
she helped us out.
Thank you, Frank. So I'll finish the show here, and I'm on a couple times over the next few months here, and
next month is the city.
Well, no, I'm on the end of this month, and I believe my guest will be City Councilor Neil Kinnan, and he was going to join me tonight, but unfortunately his schedule did not permit it. I also reached out to my good friend, a good Republican friend, very controversial, longtime Maldonian businessman, Arthur Kahn. I feel bad because he's usually the guy that I can call last minute, and unfortunately he couldn't make it tonight. But Frank was good enough to sit down, and we did a little point counterpoint. Thank you, Haley. Did a great job. Appreciate it. Haley helped from upstairs. So anyway, yeah, what have we got coming up tomorrow? Valentine's Day, and it's the Lenten season. Of course, we've got President's Day, which is Monday, and we've got school vacation week for us here in Mass all next week. The public schools will be closed. Hey, one thing we didn't talk about was the mail service. And you almost knew it was coming, but starting this August, there'll be no Saturday delivery. And I don't know that, I'm still an old-fashioned person. I like mail. They call it snail mail. I almost am concerned that it's 2 days in a row without mail. I think, would it have been better to maybe pick middle of the week, like a Wednesday? No Wednesday, no Sunday delivery. I mean, if you put something in the mail Thursday, chances are it won't get delivered. Well, even Wednesday, it might not get delivered locally till Monday, which is a long, you're almost. It's going to be interesting to see how many people's bills become delinquent, or how many bills don't get to people in time. So that's going to be interesting. Now, as a good test with the storm, was one of the first times ever. I mean, their slogan is, "No rain, no sleet, no snow will keep us from delivering the mail." And the entire New England states had no mail delivery on Saturday. So it was a good test to see, but of course we were all shut down. So anyway, we'll talk more about that as it comes up. All kinds of interesting things. We had the Grammy Awards last week. A lot of great artists won some awards. We've got the Oscars coming up later this month. All kinds of some entertainment news, and always great to be a part of the show here and a part of the community. And our hats off to the mayor, Mayor Gary Christensen. I know I mentioned Mayor Howard, who's doing a great job in Winchester, but Mayor Christensen did a phenomenal job here in Malden with the DPW, plowing, keeping the streets clean and safe, and in a timely fashion too. So our kudos and thanks to them, and congratulations for doing such a good job. But anyway, so we're winding down. We got 2 minutes, 2 minutes left here in the show. Actually, next week is the State of the City address. Speaking of State of the Union, Mayor Christensen, the State of the City address is next week. I believe it's Thursday. I'm not quite positive because I won't be in town, unfortunately, for it. But call the Chamber of Commerce and you'll get all the information on the State of the City. And of course, all businesses are very much encouraged to attend, but any resident can attend. So you can call the Chamber office at 781-322-4500 and hear firsthand from Mayor Gary Christensen on the state of the city and what's going to be happening in the future as we go forward in 2013 here in the city of Malden. So that's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you. Have a happy Lent, happy and safe Lenten season. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It's Valentine's Day for everybody, not just couples and people in love, as I mentioned, kids and grandparents. It's a great day. It's a nice, heartfelt day, and hope everybody enjoys Valentine's Day. And don't just celebrate it one day. Keep it going. Definitely for the weekend, but even beyond. Have love in your heart. Be happy. So that's it from here. Thank you very much. Thanks, Malden. Thanks, Frank. Have a good one.
don't want to sing no song. I don't want to sing no song. I hate when I sing want my money? How come I never get my money? I never get my money.